Greetings, YouTube. Once again, a gaming video inspired by watching someone else play Fallout 4, in this particular case, Gopher. And he was traveling across the wasteland and beginning the Far Harbor DLC. And his particular build that he's been playing, the guy named Frank, uses powered armor a lot. Frank likes his powered armor, which you gotta understand. Powered armor is pretty cool. And he's attacked by some mongrels. And the mongrels do harm to Frank, which to my mind makes zero sense because they just have teeth. And he's in powered armor, pretty much the best powered armor out there. And yet they're harming Frank a lot. And I didn't understand that. Well, he started playing the survival mode, so that might be part of it. But dog teeth, or human teeth for that matter, but organic teeth, should not be able to get through powered armor at all. There should be pretty much no chance that teeth are going to harm someone wearing powered armor. Okay? Which got me thinking of one of the versions of Gamma World, and I honestly can't remember which one, had technological tiers. And what that meant is if you had a weapon of tier 1, you could only harm tier 1 or tier 2 armor. And if someone was wearing tier 3 armor, and I think there were 4 or 5 tiers, I don't remember which. I could be thinking it might have been 4. You essentially couldn't harm someone because your weapon just wasn't tough enough to harm that target. You just couldn't do it. Savage World touches on that with the category of normal weapons and heavy weapons. So if you have certain types of armor, like an APC or a tank, you need a heavy weapon to harm the APC or tank. You may have the bestest 45 caliber pistol that man can make, but you are just not going to harm a tank with a 45 caliber pistol. It just isn't going to happen. You pretty much have to put the thing down the barrel, and that there had to be a round in there, and maybe possibly, conceivably you could set it off, killing yourself at the same time. But under normal circumstances, which is what your day-to-day combat is, a strange thing to say, but in role-playing games and tabletop war games and in computer games, day-to-day combat is a real thing. It just isn't going to happen. And I thinking about that, and because the genre of tabletop role-playing games as we know them today really started in the fantasy genre. In the fantasy genre, there aren't technical tiers like that. You just don't see weapons and armor having such a disparity that they don't interact correctly. They evolved together. Yes, full-on plate, head-to-toe plate, is really difficult to harm with your average wooden stick. Your average just plain wooden club, you're going to have a really difficult time harming somebody in that armor. And some systems do reflect that, and that armor does DR, damage resistance. So when you have really good armor, it absorbs so much of the damage that essentially if you just have a plain wooden club, you're going to be smacking on that guy in that armor all day long, and you're just not going to harm them. So that's reflecting the reality of the situation through damage resistance. But if someone is really, really talented with that club, has devoted all they could possibly put for skills or level abilities or points or however your system works, and they roll really well on top of that, you can still kill or at least harm severely the person in that plate. But there isn't a situation where there just is no chance that's going to happen. And that's what I see when a dog is trying to gnaw on somebody in powered armor. There just isn't any way that a dog should be able to gnaw on a person in powered armor any more than that dog should be able to gnaw through an APC or a tank. But I realized that in my collection of role-playing games, I don't know if I've ever seen tiers of weapons and armor in a fantasy setting. Now, I could be wrong. And I'm there, and I guess if you had a universal system, that would kind of mean that they are in a fantasy setting. But I don't know of any systems that use a tier mechanism for weapons and armor, because the only one that really came to mind is the Gamma World edition. And again, I can't remember which version it was that had that particular mechanism. Um, most of the systems seem to take either the avoidance armor model, where you just become more and more difficult to hit, which reflects the fact that your armor is providing you more protection, so the blows are glancing off you, and hits mean that you actually got a solid perpendicular blow, or you hit a joint. You get the idea. You get the idea. You were able to finally connect and do harm to the person wearing the armor, or they use a damage resistance or some system that meshes or combines, or it's a sliding scale. You get the idea. But I don't know of any generic or fantasy systems that use a tier system. So I thought I'd throw that out there and see if any of you folks have ever heard of one. And again, I've also zero experience pretty much with the narrative systems, because I don't consider them role-playing games. Yes, a controversial topic, I understand. They are games. I just, as someone recently said, they are games with a role-playing aspect as opposed to role-playing games, which I think may be a more accurate definition of the situation. But the idea that certain weapons simply cannot harm certain types of armor, which was reflected in that Gamma World edition, is not something I've seen in role-playing games that deal with either a generic system or a fantasy system. So I'm asking you folks if you know of any. Do you like that model? Do you think it makes sense that a low-level stone tool produced by a species of mutants that is just in the Neolithic scale of technology shouldn't be able to hurt a guy in this powered armor similar to what you see in Fallout 4? Because there was power armor like that in pretty much every edition of Gamma World. So do you think it makes sense that a stone spearhead has almost no shot of harming someone in powered armor, or that a Mark V blaster, and I remember the name of that one because it was one of the top tier types of weapon in all versions of Gamma World, should be able to cut right through, say, animal hide armor like it's not even there. So let's talk about weapons and tech tiers, and technology and tiers, and see if we can come up with any information about systems that do this in a generic or a fantasy system, or whether you like this model or not.